Much.
Okay, my name's Joseph Ober. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Yeah. Just flew in from Jerusalem and boy, are my arms tired. I mean, it's amazing that Zoom can connect us, like across around the world. One of the things that I realized, when COVID happened, all the meetings in Israel were shut down. There was a rule, like a military rule, you couldn't congregate more than 10. And so we couldn't get the rents together. Anyway, we had choices, come on to Zoom or not do anything. And in coming to Zoom, I realized, that's where God wanted me because I started to meet people around the world that had a like-minded message rather than just be confined to Jerusalem where, certain people had certain ideas, this and that. Anyway, it just goes to show that my preconceived notions of what's good and bad really have only a tenuous connection to reality. All right. So this is a step study. So I'm just going to assume everybody knows, why we're here. I'm an alcoholic. I used to drink, fall down, wallet. I was the guy who, the day after I would go and look for my car. Once I found my car, right, I'd have to go check it for blood. That was my life for a while, drinking 30 beers a day, this and that. It didn't start like that. It started, with my childhood. Anyway, wound up here and eventually got into rehab February 29th, 1996. And that started my journey. And now here we are in Los Angeles. Sorry. I was in Los Angeles and I moved to Israel 4 years ago. And that's where we're at. Okay. But since this is a step study, we're just going to I'll make the assumption, Mike, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, just that we have some familiarity with the steps, but just a brief overview, right? So the steps are designed to take someone who's totally disconnected from God, from themselves, from other people, okay? And then reunite with God, themselves, with other people. And that's what the steps are designed to do. It doesn't say anywhere in the steps that you're going to stop drinking. You can read them, it doesn't. It says having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, which means that the intended result is a spiritual experience. And that should relieve your drinking. Am I taking questions, Maya, or are you going to handle that? Okay, there's a handle. Okay, anyway, so that's the story. So, we start out, being restless, irritable, and discontented. I don't know if you've ever asked, why do you drink, right? I mean, people drink, the doctor's opinion says, because it gives us a lift, right? Because we generally feel like we enjoy the feeling. But at some point, we realized that it was bad for us, right? But we continue to do it. At that point, that's where it became unnatural. Any animal in the wild that does something that puts them at more of a risk to die, it is considered they're sick. They have a sickness. And that's where we were, right? We were putting ourselves in a situation where we were more inclined to die. Why would we do that? Because it offered us some benefit, okay? Right? And, it allowed us to, live with ourselves, our problems, made people more interesting. I drank to make you more interesting, to be honest, right? Life was boring. Putting some drinks in me made other people, seem like, much more interesting and good to talk to. Anyway, so that was why we were drinking. There was a restless, irritable, and discontented is our default state, right? That's what the doctor opinion said. And that is what powers our drinking. If I were to be today restless, irritable, and discontented, right, for any length of time, eventually I'm going to drink, right? I can't speak for every alcoholic, but in my 28 years, my experience is that if it lets, you always hear people say, oh, I relapsed and this and that. If you ask them what was going on the week before, it has nothing to do with the actual event. I was at a wedding and I saw my ex-girlfriend or whatever it is. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the week before, right? Wasn't handling my resentments. I was balking on my 9th step, 4th step, wasn't calling my sponsor, whatever it is. I had, 2 lives, whatever it is. Okay. And that's the thing. If we remain spiritually fit, then we're protected against alcohol. But doing that requires a lot of work. Okay. So the first 3 steps, right? We come in, we realize, that drinking was bad for us in the first step, but our life is unmanageable. Can't manage my life. And there's some confusion on this, so I'll just say it, out loud, that people come in and say, oh yeah, when I was drinking, my life was really unmanageable, right? When I was smoking crack or whatever it was, right? Yeah, of course it was unmanageable, but that's a totally different thing. My life is unmanageable today. My life, right? And I get 28 years in the game. It doesn't mean that my bills are unpaid, and it doesn't mean that the cops are looking for me. What it means is I can't manage my life because I'm so biased in certain areas, and because my brain gets obsessed with certain thoughts, right? That I can make mistakes. It's not easily manageable by me. That's why I outsource my thinking to either my sponsor or to my God squad, right? I use their brain to solve my problem. Now, why is that important, right? Because think about it, in any problem you're going to work on, right? You're going to have an emotional attachment to, whether it's, what you do with your kids, or whether you go to your grandmother's birthday party, or whether you take a job in Santa Fe, whatever it is, you're emotionally attached to it. And as much as you think about it and pros and cons and this and that, you can't see it clearly because you don't want to fly to Santa Fe because you want your kids to grow up to be big and strong, whatever it is. But if you lay it out, hand it off to a sponsor, okay, then you will have him, use his brain and his knowledge of the steps to solve your problem. Now, that requires a certain degree of humility, okay? And then as we're going to get into the step 6 thing, is that where do we get humility from, right? And I heard a great quote. I have this book. It's not AA approved literature. It's not approved, but it's called The Steps We Took. It's by Joe from Joe and Charlie. And it's like my go-to for like practical stuff. So because Maya, thank you, asked me to speak. So I went and I said, I'll go and I'll look at some step 6 and 7 stuff. So it had this great quote. 1 second. Oh, it says spirituality of subtraction, right? He's talking about how we came into AA thinking that we're going to have this stuff added on to us, right? Because you go to college to get information. You go to grade school to get information, right? You go to a seminar to get information. But when we come to AA, it's actually about losing something, right? What are the things we're losing? Character defects. How is this spirituality of subtraction, right? And this person, Meister Eckhart, this is 14th century mystic. He says it is said that nature abhors a vacuum. I tell you, God abhors a vacuum and cannot abide a vacuum anywhere on earth. It means he hates when there's nothingness, right? It fills with stuff. So empty yourself of self, and you will automatically fill with God. So that's the thing, is that, how do we get God into us or revealed in us so that we act differently, right? We get rid of our character defects. We think we come in, and we say, I gotta learn stuff. I gotta learn how to be a better human being, this and that. That's not true, in my opinion. It comes down to the step 6 and 7 of shedding what's blocking me from God, right? The prayer that we said at the beginning. If I'm obsessed with ego, then I can't be humble, right? If I have gluttony, right, then I can't be okay with what I have. So if I'm obsessed with gluttony, if I have to get, not just, one of something, but the whole series and this and that, right? Then I'm not going to be happy with what I have, right? So this work of step 6 of shedding the thing brings us from that state of being restless, irritable, and discontented to page 133, where it says happy, joyous, and free. That's the big jump, right? And if I'm happy, joyous, and free, I'm not going to drink, right? That's what kicked us in here, whether drinking, cocaine, gambling, womanizing, whatever. They're all different fellowships now, but the solution is the same: spiritual experience. All of their steps say at the end, step 12, having had a spiritual awakening. It's a solution to all the things, right? So when newcomers are looking for, no, I want to be with alcoholics, or no, I want to be with pot smokers, or whatever it is, they're still focused on the drug. They don't even know what a spiritual experience is going to do for them, right? But anyway, here we are. How do we get to a spiritual experience? The middle part of it, the 6 and 7, is shedding our character defects. So anyway, the first 3 steps are designed to reunite us with God. Okay, we were disconnected from God. We didn't know from God. We ran our lives. When we were confronted with what to do about something, we always went to our brain. I don't know how you grew up religiously or anything like that, but your default wasn't to pray, wasn't to go to God, wasn't what does God want from me, right? It was, how am I going to get this to happen? Whether it's a job or a girl or a movie role or whatever it is, right? We used our brain, we employed that, and then we were upset with the results if we didn't get it. We were pleased if we did get it, right? But then there was something else that we wanted to get, and something else. There was never that ease and comfort, right? Ease and comfort, you've heard those words, right? Because that comes from the doctor's opinion. It says that an alcoholic is continually chasing after the ease and comfort which he got from a drink, right? And that's what we do today. Now that we can't drink anymore, right? We're just going to look for other things so we can have these, right? We're going to go and suddenly Netflix becomes super interesting, right? I worked at a rehab that, all the guys got their phones back at 60 days. And I'm telling you, day 61, 90% of them downloaded Tinder, right? Because they're stuck in, a rehab. And then all of a sudden, they're like, I don't like myself. I haven't drank this and that. They're restless, irritable, and discontented. Their brain tells them, you know what, I need a relationship. The logic of it, they don't even see to themselves, who's going to date a guy who just got out of rehab, right? You know what I mean? Like that, or that they need to work on themselves or whatever. It's so important that they get that ease and comfort, right? So that's the thing. But why are we motivated towards ease and comfort? Because we're restless, irritable, and discontented. Where does a restless, irritable, discontent come from? From our character defects. Okay, so I'm going to explain it again from the beginning. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are going to reunite us with God. The reason why we have to do those, even though step 4 is super important, if finding out our character defects is super important, why don't we just do it first? Right? Good question, Maya. Yeah. If this is going to save my life, right, just do it first. Because I won't be able to do an effective third step until I do those first 3 steps and shed my self-obsession so I can start seeing how reality really is, right? And also, I could just send out questionnaires to all my friends and have them write about my character defects. Wouldn't that be an easy way to find out about myself? The problem is, if I don't do those first 3 steps, I'm not going to believe anything that anybody writes back to me. I'm going to ask Maya, what do you think of me? And then I'm going to say, oh, well, she doesn't know me well enough. And then I'll ask Gloria and say, oh, those were just limited cases and this and that. I mean, and you see people in the rooms that are all like this. You try and be nice and like point out something to them. And they're like, no, you don't understand. It's more complicated than that. Okay, fine, whatever. I get paid either way. People call me, right? And ask me things, right? Somebody left me a message. Say, Joseph, can you please, I heard you speak at a meeting and this and that and da-da-da. Could I run something past you? And I said, well, let me ask you, where's your sponsor? Well, I don't get along with him. I said, well, there's your problem, right? Now, this person isn't even cognizant of what his real problem is. All he's looking for is he wants me to be Google, right? An educated Google, right? And the thing is, what does that have to do with character defects? That has to do with our ego, right? Not letting us see the truth. And as we shed our ego, we start to see things differently in a very positive, it's sometimes in a negative way, in that we're not as great as we think, but my experience, in a very positive way, right? That life is more beautiful than I really give it credit for. That people are much greater in their capacity than I would have assumed. Right? When I start shedding, because my character defects will say that, well, what that person did isn't so great, right? I could do better, right? That's what my character defects will say, or won't even notice that person, right? We could walk through the best place in the world in terms of artwork, the Louvre or the MoMA in Manhattan, and none of it's gonna help our mood if we're self-obsessed. We've been there, right? You know what would? A nice drink, right? A glass of vodka will take us right up. Well, we can't drink anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, But the thing is, when everybody, not everybody, but most people are coming to AA looking for a replacement for vodka, right? They want to come to meetings. I want to share about, everything that's happened to me, and I want to complain, and I want to this, and I want to that, and da-da-da. Do you feel better? No, right? But they do it anyway. Right? But what's really going on here is to shed our character defects and then have an evolved experience where we see things differently, and we can walk down the street not self-obsessed, actually look at the trees, be in relationships, call somebody on their birthday, right? I have this experience all the time. I'll tell person A about person B's birthday, right? Hoping that person A will reach out and wish that person happy birthday. And it never occurs to them that that's even an option. You know what I'm saying? Somebody tells me, Joseph, by the way, it's Maya's birthday. Of course, I would turn right around and I would say happy birthday, because not because it's anything to do with a specific person, but God wants me to bring joy to this world. I work for God today. I happen to be a Jewish rabbi, but I'm not coming from a religious perspective. Okay, that's just ancillary. I'm coming from page 63 stuff, which is third step, right? That it says I have to stay close to him, perform his work well. right? And he's going to take care of all my needs. It's literally what it says on that page. We came here to talk about page 66. So what blocks us from that? What blocks us from that is, my obsession with self. The basic character defects, if we do the first 3 steps, reunites us with God, then we pick up the pen. 4 through 7 is going to reunite us with ourselves. 8 and 9, going to reunite us with the rest of humanity. Right? And you can see it in the steps, right? If you have any familiarity with it. And, Maya knows what she's doing. You can ask her, how to line it up, right? Okay, so the 4 through 7 is what we're talking about now. The 4 steps gonna give over. It's gonna be a spiritual X-ray, right? It's not gonna be every single detail of everything that I did in my life, but it's gonna be the bullet point, okay? And why is that? Because then in step 5, somebody else is gonna take a look at it and give me like a spiritual X-ray. It's gonna say, Joseph, like when you were 8 years old and started lying, and then when you were 11 years old and started lying, 13-year-old, and then in college, Joseph, maybe you're a liar. Maybe you have a problem with honesty. Now this is like news to me, right? You know what I mean? I just say to myself, well, that's what I had to do to get done, right? And then I identify that as a character defect, right? And then, in step 6, I'm going to want to get rid of it, and that's going to allow me to live free. Okay, so the 4 through 7 is going to reunite me with myself. It's actually going to allow me to embrace who I actually am, right? Without fears, without. If we actually knew how much God loves us, and I'm not talking like an evangelical preacher or whatever, but the God of the universe, the higher power, the one that put us on this planet to have a great experience, that provided us with all the movies and television shows and Aurora Borealis and Grand Canyon and everything. If we knew how much God loves us, our brains would explode, right? In his wisdom, he shielded us from all that, right? But the more we shed ourselves of our character defects, the more we start to see, like, there's beautiful things going on all the time. We can experience, what our children are, what our loved ones are. We can experience, the fact of the gratitude of being sober. But the more I'm wrapped up in self, the more when I wake up and I'm restless, irritable, and discontented, and I know that you're to blame or you did this, right? When people articulate, when they come back, from relapsing, just listen to their story and how diluted it is. I drank because I saw my ex-girlfriend on New Year's Eve, okay? No, you drank because you're an alcoholic, right? And now we know you didn't have any spiritual program working, right? They don't even understand. They think that seeing their girlfriend, right, ex-girlfriend, actually had a causation to drink. That's a child's understanding of the world, right? But what really went on there, the analysis, is their character. They were wrapped up in character defects. It was difficult for them. They were still obsessed with, this relationship. They felt pain around it, right? They probably felt bad about how they treated her or whatever it is. Anyway, it tossed all that off. And then their brain said, that's, I better go get a drink. Plus also, what were they doing at a bar on New Year's Eve? And all the things of like all the short-sightedness. But my point is that like, the more we identify our character defects, and I'm just going to give you 7, right? Which you're all familiar with: pride, lust, anger, greed, gluttony, envy, and sloth. Okay. Those are the big 7, but there's all kinds of other things, that we gossip and this and that, whatever, right? So if you got those and you say, these are blocking me from God, right? It says in step 3, made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. And on 63, it says that God's going to take care of all my problems. Literally, that's what it says. If I stay close and perform his work well, the thing that's blocking me is the character defects. I got to get rid of them or I'm not going to have access to the blessings, right? I'm going to be managing my life again. I'm going to be in fear, right? People kind of half do the steps. People, they call me up and they're like, yeah, I'm much better off than I was and this and that, whatever. I don't want to actually tell them what it says in the book, even though they've heard it 100 times at any meeting. Half measures avail does nothing. Telling me they're like, oh yeah, it's better than it was, this and that. It's not convincing me of anything, and I'm not the one suffering, right? But that's the thing is like, we have to look at ourselves. Do we really want this? Do we really want to be connected to God? It's not going to happen overnight. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. It wasn't like that for me. I was obnoxious when I would walk up to speakers, right? At a meeting, we all only had face-to-face meetings, and I really fell in love with the book, right? Even from the beginning, right? I'd walk up to speakers, and you'd wait online, 14 people in a line or whatever, gets to my turn, and I'd be like, tell me where what you said is in this book. And I'd like put it in their face, like an obnoxious jerk. And then once my sponsor said, hey, why are you doing that? Like, because I heard them misquote something from the book, Say, Joseph, just Stop being a jerk, right? I know you want to connect with God, but we're not moving in that direction. So I'm going to give you different. Stop being a jerk first. That really is what it comes down to as far as the character defects are. What I've read about nature abhorring a vacuum. If you're aware of your character defects, the pride, lust, anger, greed, gluttony, envy, sloth, or that you're gossiping against somebody, that you're stealing or something like that, right? These are all character defect type stuff. As you shed those things, you'll fill with God. It's bizarre in that it's not taught outside of this Alcoholics Anonymous. All the things that you're really going to learn that are important within Alcoholics Anonymous are totally reversed of what goes on outside. I'm telling you, I've been around, right? It's the gift you have to give away to keep, right? Why am I even here talking to you guys? Maya's not paying me, right? Because if I give it away, I get to keep it, right? The person who's benefiting most from this meeting is me. Whatever information you get or write down or whatever it is, I'm staying sober. Somebody just entered the waiting room. But the thing is, that like all the things are like in reverse. So when we come here thinking that we're going to learn some information, and that's why everybody's clicking on Zoom links and I got to go to a meeting, right? You've all been in chats, right? I really need a meeting right now, right? And I used to write back to them, what you really need is a program. A meeting is a nice place to hide out for an hour. And it's true, because the solution is much deeper than that, right? The solution is I have to take a look at myself. I'm not a bad person, but I'm just, I have character defects. Fine, I list them out, this and that. I pray for them to go away. I work on them when they come up, right? If I act out in some way in it, I'm much farther along than where I was. But now my problem is that I offer advice where I really shouldn't, okay? Because I'm I'm so smart and this and that. And everybody needs to know, right? But when I run it past my my sponsor, this happened at a dinner party this Shabbat. The person was talking about whatever. They thought it was bad to be unkind to animals, right? And okay, fine. We all agree that that's the case. But she was making a case that like it should be forbidden to buy these particular kind of hats because they're made out of fur or whatever. And I was like, well, it's okay for you not to buy them, right? Don't buy them. And she's like, no, it really shouldn't be for everyone. So I thought I was like talking to one of my sponsees. So I started like getting in her face about it. And, I do my thing, I was like, where are you getting your information, right? I'll give you 3 options. You got it from God, you got it from another person, or it came from you, right? And one of those is very unreliable as a source of information. Anyway, so this is at her house. Okay, so what's my point there? My point that a character defect came out, that I was trying to help her by exposing her lack of logic or whatever. But that was wrong. I didn't see the bigger picture as God would have it, that I was at her dinner table as her guest. When I ran it past my sponsor, he said, Joseph, what was wrong with keeping your mouth shut? He's like, why didn't your drop-down menu include that? And I was like, oh, I don't know. It got really intense. Yeah, Joseph, I understand that you want to get to the truth. Yes, I understand that you care about them, and I thought that we're liberating them, but that's not how God sees it. God sees that you were a guest at their house, and and that you wanted to connect with them. I hadn't seen them in a while; it just hadn't worked out. I wasn't connecting with them; I was starting an argument. Now, as fate would have it, right? It didn't turn into an argument, this and that, and I left. But now I have to make amends. Okay, why am I making the amends? It's not so that I'll get invited back. That's not my objective, right? It's not even my objective for them to like me more. It's so that I can call out my character defect as being objectionable to me. Anybody who's writing, write down this word, objectionable. You want a character defect to suddenly become objectionable. You can't live with it. If you know that you have pride, make it objectionable to you. That's in the book. Okay, let's the big book, for whatever reason, right? We're not even going to get into it. It only has like a couple of paragraphs on step 6 and 7. Everybody knows that, okay, but let's just read what it says. If we can answer to our we're coming in from step 5, right? That we've, done a good step 5. If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. We've emphasized willingness as being indispensable, right? And you see that word indispensable, by the way. In 1939 American English, indispensable meant unable to be dispensed. Now I know it means basically the same as it's essential. But what they meant by indispensable is that I can't give it to you. Maya can't dispense the willingness to me. right? And I can't dispense willingness to Stephen, whatever it is, right? So they're saying here, you have to come to the table with it, being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things that which we admitted are objectionable? Now they become objectionable to us, right? If they don't become objectionable, you're not going to get rid of them. Think about how you organize your house, okay? There are things that have been sitting there for a long time, but if once they become objectionable, they start to smell really bad, you get rid of them immediately, right? Yeah? Am I living on the same planet as you guys? Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? Like, just make them objectionable to you. Say, I can't live any longer with this pride thing. It bothers me so much. Not because people don't like me. That's a different thing. Okay. I happen to be well liked or whatever, and I don't drink and this and that, but I don't serve God well. That's ultimately the thing here with the prayer that we said is, please take away the things that are keeping me from serving you. This is what the prayer is over here. When ready, we say something like this: my Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character, right? And if you stop there, that would make a complete sentence, but it goes on, which stands in my way of usefulness to you and my fellows, right? Now let's look at Joseph's thing, with the dinner party, right? My ego and my need to like be right or to have a good argument was not making me useful to her, right? She was uncomfortable in her own home with me there. You know what I'm saying? So like, I flagged it. Now I'm going to go make amends. There'll be a sting or whatever it is. We've been friends for a really long time, and I know her children. I used to babysit her children 20 years ago when I lived in Israel in the same town or whatever. I'm not going anywhere because I'm friends with all of her kids. So we're not going to part company. But the thing is, that like, I want to have a good vibe with her, right? And how am I going to go make the amends? I'm going to explain to her. I'm going to say, you know what? We're on different sides of the street on this, right? And that's okay. And you have your opinion. That's totally cool. But it was completely inappropriate that in your home that I was acting like somebody that was not grateful for that. I apologize for that, and I hope you can forgive me. Now, what's that going to do? That's going to burn into my consciousness that this isn't okay. And unless I want to keep making amends for like 30 different times, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to change my behavior, right? I'm going to become a different person. That's what we wanted when we came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I hope anyway, right? It wasn't just to put the bottle down, right? If it was just to put the bottle down, then put the bottle down, right? But why can't we stay away from it? Because our character defects power us, our consciousness, and make us restless, irritable, and discontented, right? How much of your day do you sit formulating opinions about everything, right? You wake up and like it's raining when it should be sunny, right? That's a character defect. It says, back in the book on page 60, we had to quit playing God, right? As soon as I start labeling things, it's a character defect. I'm sitting in God's chair. It's going to make me unhappy, right? I was walking with my friend, and we were talking about when people get engaged here. There's an engagement party. I guess everywhere there's an engagement party. I have a friend that doesn't go to engagement parties. Why? Because he himself is not married, and it hurts him to see the joy going on there. So I was talking with this friend of mine, and I was saying, that's a character defect. He can't be happy for this other guy, right? He's just so self-obsessed. If he could shed it, then he would be dancing with his friend, and then maybe even God would bless him with a wife. But if anything, a loving God is going to shield a wife from him because he's so wrapped up in self. Now, sitting and explaining it to somebody, right? It's a logical argument, but then people will say, well, how do you know, Joseph? Again, I'm sitting on the other side of having done this work, right? I didn't just wake up on Thursday and decide to be like, sober, right? And I doubted it for a long time, but ultimately, like I did the work, I put in the effort, I trusted God, and I've had borderline miraculous experiences that have happened with me. There was a time I lived in Los Angeles and I had a very good paying job and this and that and whatever. And then I made a decision that I'm going to go and pursue my religious studies. And there was fear and this and that. And I had to endure, my sister who's very practical. And she was like, with a thick New York accent. And she's like,
Why would you go and be in Israel? What's wrong with staying in America? What are you going to do for money? Right? Now if I had adhered to that, I would be still back there. Now, again, but I didn't have the character defects of like fear, right? Or even, what's the word? Reaction to my sister. Jeannie, you're entitled to your opinion, right? But ultimately it's my life. This is where I'm going. Okay. But the thing is, why was I able to do that? Is because, there has to be work from character defects. If not, then think of the things that are, that you would do with your life and your time if you weren't blocked by fear, right? It doesn't mean that everything you would do is going to work out, but life would be much more vibrant. And if life is much more vibrant, you're much less likely to drink. That's the ultimate thing, that what got us here. But if you subscribe to fear and you shield your life and you don't ask the girl out that you wanted to ask out, or you don't ask for a promotion or your raise or whatever it is because of fear, then, day goes after day, right? And then you're like, you know what? Enough already. I need a drink, right? Drinking was just like one aspect of getting us in here. But ultimately, the thing we just in my talk, and I hope it was clear. I never really know if I'm getting through, but the thing is that, like, we got to the point of, like, it wasn't never the alcohol wasn't the problem. I'm telling you, I'll say it again. Alcohol was never the problem. Alcohol was never the problem. It had nothing to do with the cocaine or the hookers, the gambling, the food. Those are just things. Why are they appealing to us? Because there's internal emotional pressure. Why do we have internal emotional pressure? Because of character defects in the way we see the world. My pride says that I'm the one who should have gotten the promotion, and I can't stand it that other guy got it. Now, either I have to kill him and then I'll feel better because he didn't get promoted, right? And some people take that option, right? All these murder mysteries are all about that. Somebody was in the way, right? Their character defects were motivating their behavior, right? Or, right, this guy who got promoted, I can shed my character defect of pride. I can be at ease and I can say, you know what? I'm grateful I have a job. It'll come around. There's maybe a reason why I didn't get the promotion. Maybe next time. And I can live happy. That is how we get to happy, joyous, and free on page 133. Right? The thing is that we like to we like to make things so much more complicated. Right? And I have to tell you my whole backstory about my childhood. My mom didn't hug me enough, and this and that. We're wrapped up in a lot of challenges here in 2024. You get a lot of bad information that came out of the rehabs and that. I came through a rehab, so I'm not slandering the whole system or whatever it is, but they seem to have, diluted the 12 steps as like one aspect of a suite of 10 services, including equine therapy, which is playing with horses, or acupuncture or whatever it is. And also we have 12 steps, right? But the thing is, if we throw our weight just behind the 12 steps, which has been proven to treat alcoholism, right, we'd have a much higher success rate. But a lot of the psychological things of if Ruvain was diagnosed with stomach cancer, okay, he has two big questions. How did I get it? How do I get rid of it? Right? Can we agree on that? It's the same thing with alcoholism. This is a life and death disease. How did I get it? Is an important question, but much more important is how do I get rid of it and treat it? Right? So a lot of people go backwards. They want to get a psychologist and a psychologist. And if you look in the big book, it says clearly, there are pages, about this, that self-knowledge did not help us. Right? It has to do with this work, getting rid of our character defects, liberating ourselves. Right? We could all get together and make some kind of pact, right? That we're going to shed one character defect, right? That we're going to pride or anger, right? What's really interesting, by the way, how God uses me, Joseph Ober, again, I'm just telling my tale, but I have a really good friend. He's a big lawyer in Los Angeles. Okay. He has kids and everything like that. And he called me up because I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. He doesn't have a drinking problem. Okay. He just knows that I've been working on myself. And he said, look, man, I've been struggling with anger with my kids. He's like, I don't get into anger with my partners but when my kids don't do their homework or something like that, I get freaked out. Okay. And he was calling me to help solve that problem. Okay. Now, I'm the only big book this guy's ever going to read. So I didn't go and say, like, oh, you got to page 63 and this and that, whatever. I prayed on it. Oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't even plan this. And I remembered I had a book on anger that was written by a rabbi back in my apartment, right? He called me and I was at work, and so I took a bus back. So I came and I got the book, and then I told him, this is the book, da da da. You can read it, whatever. And then I made a pact with him that we'll work on it together. I don't have anger's not my gig, whatever, and as I was reading that book, right, because I want to be able to talk with him, I was learning stuff that I did need to hear. Okay. Now, what I'm proposing to you is that God had the whole thing orchestrated. He wanted me to get to that book and this and that, right? So he had my friend call me from Los Angeles to me. I had to be in a situation where not only did I offer the knowledge of just telling what book, but I wanted to help him because I love this guy, so I said, I'm going to read the book with him, and I was the one that benefited it. Now, if I was obsessed with self, right, that I've got to do this and I've got to do that. If I was trying to handle, I like to say this, by the way, because not everybody's aware of it. There are 5 things that all human beings struggle with. Okay, this is all the way from the first human being, right? If you want to believe it's Adam, or the first thing that walked out of the primordial ooze, and he had to struggle in these 5 areas. It's legal, health, finance, friends and family, romantic entanglements. Okay, spoiler alert, a year from now, you know what you're going to be struggling with? Legal, health, finance, friends and family, romantic entanglements. It doesn't go away. What's different, the spiritual experience promises in the back, is our reaction is different, right? Our reaction is different. So if you take page 63 literally, right, which is how I read the book, it says, when we sincerely took such a position, right, I'm offering that up, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer, being all powerful, it provided what we needed, right? Those 5 areas get taken care of. But it says if we kept close to him and perform his work well. And our character defects are what's going to make that a problem. I'm not going to be able to stay close to God because I have fear. People are walking around with fear all the time today, right? Anxiety, stress. They can't get to sleep. Character defects are what powers that. I think somebody's unmuted, so it keeps chirping. Those are all powered by character. If I could take away your character defects, I would, right? I'm that good of a guy. But that's not the way it works, right? Each of us has to identify what they are, and then pray this prayer. I want to be willing that you take it away from me. If you don't ask God, then he just says, okay, good luck with your plan. Right? It's literally what the prayer says. Oh, I'm sorry. By the way, do you want to, if I end early, will there be more time for question and answer? Because I can end now. Maybe people have stuff to ask. You tell me. 2 minutes more or whatever? Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. So that's the deal, right? Let's forget about drinking. You want to lead a happy, good life, right? The big book has promises. Come in here, demand the promises, grab me by the shoulders and say, Joseph, I want those promises. Okay, fine. I'm going to tell you on page 133, it says, happy, joyous, and free. You want that? Great. Okay. I can explain to you how to get there through a spiritual experience. Are you afraid of page 52, right? The bedevilments, right? You couldn't form a true partnership, that you didn't seem to be of use with others. Those things are going to power you, right? You don't want to be restless, irritable, and discontented. You don't want to live on page 52, right? You want to get to happy, joyous, and free. That is accomplishable. But in the middle, right, comes shedding these character defects. First of all, you need to identify them. That comes in step 4, right? Work with your sponsor in step 5. Then, and on page, when it comes, sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. My book's falling apart, right? And, they say if your book's falling apart, then your life probably isn't. That I believe that is actually true. My Creator, I'm not willing that you have all me, good and bad. I pray that you remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. And you have to throw your weight behind this, right? God's not stupid, right? If you're just saying, whatever, do you really want to serve God? Do you really want to be connected to God? If you really do, that will happen. And if you are, then you won't want to drink, right? But if you're just doing it because your sponsor said to do it or whatever, and you close the book, then you have no defense, right? God, you're not connected to God, so you have to manage everything. And when it doesn't work out, you're going to want to drink. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding, amen. And then that's what it says when we completed step 7, but that's step 7. So anyway, I hope I've given a good overview of step 6. Thank you again, Maya, for asking me to share, and turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Wow, that was amazing. And if we can all unmute and just thank our speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you very much, Joseph.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. Joseph.
Really appreciate this.
Pleasure.
Joseph.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to say this about the Zoom bombers or whatever. If we didn't have, you handled it great, by the way, but there are other people that would freak out at this and that. That's all character defects. It's character defects of the Zoom bomber. What is he thinking? Why does he want to come in here? Because he doesn't think he has a place in the world, so he has to come and make a place. Right? He's spending his time to annoy us because he's so wrapped up in self, and how we respond to it showcases where we are with our character defects, and you did brilliant. Anyway, I wanted to tie to that. It's super practical.
Thank you. Right, I'm just going to mute everybody again, and I do apologize. Thank you so much, Joseph. I absolutely enjoyed listening to you. I love the way you bring reality into the mix, and real life stuff, and these character defects. It's real. It really, really is real. Okay, so I'm just getting back to my script. Where am I? Okay, so again, Tradition 7 will be in the chat shortly. And announcements, we are here every Wednesday and every Saturday. On Saturday, we are back on Saturday with another great speaker at a slightly earlier time of 7:30. So if you'd like to join us on Saturday, that'll be great. The flyer will be posted in the WhatsApp group. If you'd like a recording of the speaker's share, which I'm going to stop right now.